The conquistadores were Spanish explorers, warriors, and adventurers who played a decisive role in the European conquest of the Americas during the 16th century. Emerging in an era defined by the ambitions of the Spanish crown, the spirit of the Renaissance, and the fervor of the Catholic Church to spread Christianity, these men set out across the Atlantic in search of wealth, glory, and divine favor. Many of them were hardened soldiers, veterans of the Reconquista, Spain's long campaign to expel the Moors from the Iberian Peninsula. With the fall of Granada in 1492, the last Muslim stronghold in Spain, a generation of warriors accustomed to battle and conquest found new opportunities in the lands recently discovered by Christopher Columbus. Armed with steel weapons, firearms, and warhorses, technologies unknown to the indigenous peoples of the Americas, they ventured into unknown territories, facing vast empires, harsh landscapes, and formidable enemies. They were not alone in their exploits. Native allies, drawn by the possibility of toppling powerful local rulers, played a crucial role in their successes. Yet, the conquest of the New World was not just a story of military superiority but also of cunning diplomacy, brutal tactics, and an unexpected biological catastrophe that devastated indigenous populations. One of the most legendary figures among the conquistadores was Hernán Cortés, who arrived in Mexico in 1519 with only a few hundred men, driven by the dream of seizing the riches of the Aztec Empire. The Aztecs, ruled by Emperor Montezuma II, controlled a vast and sophisticated civilization centered in the great city of Tenochtitlan, which astounded the Spaniards with its size, advanced infrastructure, and architectural splendor. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Cortés exploited divisions among the native peoples, forming alliances with the Totonacs and the Tlaxcalans, tribes that had long suffered under Aztec rule. He marched into Tenochtitlan, where Montezuma, believing Cortés to be the returning god Quetzalcoatl, initially welcomed the Spaniards. This fragile diplomacy soon collapsed, leading to a violent conflict in which Montezuma was killed, and the Spanish were temporarily expelled during the Noche Triste in 1520. However, Cortés regrouped, laid siege to the city, and in 1521, after months of relentless battle and the devastating spread of smallpox, Tenochtitlan fell, marking the collapse of the Aztec Empire and the beginning of Spanish rule in Mexico. Meanwhile, in South America, another conquistador, Francisco Pizarro, led an equally extraordinary campaign against the Inca Empire. In 1532, with fewer than 200 men, he entered the vast Incan territory, which had recently been torn apart by a civil war between two rival brothers, Atahualpa and Huáscar, vying for the imperial throne. Seizing upon this chaos, Pizarro lured Atahualpa into a trap in the city of Cajamarca, capturing him despite being outnumbered by thousands of Incan warriors. Atahualpa, attempting to ransom himself, offered an enormous sum of gold and silver, which the Spaniards greedily accepted, only to execute him anyway. The leaderless Inca resistance crumbled, and by 1533, Pizarro had taken Cusco, the heart of the empire. However, Incan rebellions continued for decades, particularly under the leadership of Manco Inca, who waged a guerrilla war from the remote stronghold of Vilcabamba. Yet, Spanish dominance was ultimately cemented, and Peru became one of the richest provinces of the Spanish Empire, its vast silver mines at Potosi fueling the European economy for centuries. The conquests of Mexico and Peru were the most famous, but they were not the only Spanish incursions into the New World. Figures like Pedro de Alvarado led brutal campaigns in Central America, crushing the Maya resistance, while Vasco Núñez de Balboa became the first European to glimpse the Pacific Ocean in 1513. Hernando de Soto explored the southeastern United States, encountering the Mississippian cultures, while Francisco Vázquez de Coronado ventured deep into the American Southwest in search of the legendary Seven Cities of Gold. The Spanish thirst for exploration and conquest extended beyond the mainland, with Juan Ponce de Leon searching for the mythical Fountain of Youth in Florida and Sebastián de Belalcázar carving out Spanish rule in present-day Colombia and Ecuador. The legacy of the conquistadores was complex and deeply controversial. Their arrival marked the beginning of an era of European dominance in the Americas, but it also led to the near destruction of many indigenous civilizations. The encomienda system, imposed by the Spanish crown, forced native populations into brutal labor conditions, often in silver and gold mines, leading to their widespread suffering and decline. Diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, brought unknowingly by the Europeans, ravaged native populations, killing millions within just a few decades. While the Spanish justified their conquests as a divine mission to spread Christianity, the reality was one of exploitation and cultural devastation. However, their actions also laid the foundations for modern Latin America, blending indigenous and European cultures in ways that still define the region today. The Conquistadores, once seen as heroic explorers, are now recognized as both agents of empire and instruments of immense destruction, their legacy forever intertwined with the fate of the New World.